Hey everybody, this is En route, and I am eating food, but I had this inclination to do an intro to gardening video, so we're gonna do it. We're gonna do this while I eat some ramen. So, first things first, you need to figure out why are you growing something in the first place, right? What's your reason for it? Do you want to grow pretty flowers, or are you trying to feed yourself, or what is the motive? Because that is really important. Because each arena of plants has a very specific and different way of being treated, and once you get in a flow of things, it's easier, but it's not simple. Sometimes there's some happy accidents, but you kind of have to have a little bit of a good feel for it. You need to get information on growing, or else you're not gonna really know what the hell you're doing, right? You're just gonna go into it and you're gonna be like, oh, I don't have a green thumb. I suck at growing. I tried, but I killed the plant, or whatever the case might be. Or maybe you didn't try ever. So it's like a gardening mukbang. Wow. I just made something new. So, are you growing trees? Are you growing vegetables? What are you growing? And the thing is, you can grow a lot of stuff, but start with one thing at a time, right? Don't start with 10 things at a time. Now, if you wanted a little bit of variety and spice in your life, then go with the nightshade family. Because then, you don't feel like you have to just grow one thing. I just don't want you to get overwhelmed. You know what I'm saying? Because, if you start off with like 10 things, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And I'll tell you a story. Like, when I started growing stuff, I was growing a lot of stuff at once. And I had pretty good success. The yields, the fruit was pretty good. But they were a little bit smaller than I would want, for my first year. But I mean, hey, it was great. I got way more than I thought I was going to get. But I think the issue with why it was like that is because I started off biting way more than I knew I could chew. And so I was just like, wow, look at these tiny little seeds, and you don't consider, like, it seems like it takes forever for it to grow, and you don't consider how big some of these plants get, So really thinking about your space and where you're going to put things before you get overwhelmed is a great idea. Now, I was growing like tomatoes, I was growing okra, I was growing peppers, and I was growing broccoli all at the same time. And if you are an advanced gardener, you would know that growing broccoli at that time of year is not smart, the way, at least in, a hot subtropical climate, there are zones to consider. So if you are not watching this video in a tropical time zone, some of the things that I say, or at the times that I say them, and I might be a little bit more casual about, oh, you could just, leave something out and things like that. But if you live at a higher zone, there's things that I can't consider simply because I've never gardened with a snowy season. So, let's just keep that in mind. I know a good amount of stuff, but there are some things that, I'm not aware of. But what I do know is that on the colder months, sometimes you can just get some beautiful beautiful things. You know, don't ever be afraid to winter garden in a subtropical climate, even if it's cold out. Like, you can get amazing, amazing stuff, amazing produce and everything. So anyways, zones. I'm in a subtropical climate. So let's say we're growing peppers. You know, I guess I could kind of, you know, somebody in the comments could always add if they're in a more winter environment, but I will say what I can say about leaving peppers in the winter and things like that. So peppers are really cool. I managed to have a pepper for 3 years. And the thing about peppers is that my goal is to have a pepper for much longer than nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. Sorry. I guess this is a good time to eat noodles. So, I have this pepper. Wow, it was the coolest pepper ever. So this pepper, it never got huge. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I managed to keep it alive for 3 years. Most people just pull their tomatoes and their pepper plants out after each season. But I was like, nah. I live in Florida. I live in a subtropical climate. Zone 8, 9, 10, right? And, you know, there's things that grow here that you wouldn't think that would grow here. For instance, like, most people don't realize that dead ladyfinger fungi can grow in Florida, in Central Florida above, in the shade. So, anyways, we're not getting to fungi. That's the whole other thing. But anyways, this pepper, we keep getting sidetracked. This pepper managed to live, and it started to get a woody stalk, and it started to act like a tree. And so I was like, wow. In subtropical climates, you could literally have a pepper tree. And I thought, how cool is that? And most people would never know it, and most people would never try it. And this is the problem with plants, is that most people want to look at a book or check a forum or make sure that they do everything perfectly according to a certain direction. But the best advice I ever got about gardening was plants don't read books. That was the best advice I've ever gotten, because it doesn't matter if you have a group of people of the same exact genome and this and that. There's always exceptions to the rules. There's always somebody who is just a little different. They just came out a little different. And so when you apply rules to plants, to being the point of being anal, that's where you start to see a lot of issues, instead of kind of going with what that plant is. You know, a lot of people hate growing leggy plants, and I completely understand. I don't want to grow leggy plants either, okay? But I have grown leggy plants, and you know, if you give them a chance, they do come back, they do get established, they do get, as long as you know what you're doing, especially if it's like a tomato and you could literally bury it so deep. You know, I just don't, you know, if it looks healthy and it's, you know, it's viable and it doesn't, you know, it shouldn't matter. You know, you want to get them in the soil and some sun as quickly as possible. And, you know, peppers are very similar to tomatoes, except the problem with peppers is that if you wait too long, like, you can bury peppers pretty deep, But if you wait too long, when they get too mature, then they won't produce roots down the stem. Tomatoes will produce roots down the stem forever. You know, you just keep putting the soil up, 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 and away, and it will just continue to give you fruit as long as you can keep it deep in the soil, its stem. You know, if you really feel like dealing with that or doing that, you know. So I got this taco. I'm a good taco. This is so good. How's my mukbang? This is my first mukbang. I'm kidding. I'm probably not gonna do this again. I prefer doing the tea. Mukbang's weird. It's like people watching you eat. Isn't that awkward? But anyways, back to the plants. Think about your zone. Think about your space. Think about what you're gonna plant. Now, I highly, highly, highly recommend growing okra as your first try, because okra gives you, it's quick, it's fast, it's easy. Get yourself a grow bag, put it on the porch, put it wherever. Okra grows so fast. It's such a rewarding plant to put out. You want to throw the seeds to germinate them, like just put them in a little bit of water, however many seeds you want to germinate and grow. Put the seeds in water, let them soak overnight, pop them in some dirt. It will grow like a weed, and it's amazing, and you'll get these beautiful flowers, these beautiful hibiscus-like flowers that turn into okra. And then the okra is super plentiful, especially if you keep picking it. It's just like, oh my god, it's just like, oh my god, when is this gonna end? There's too much okra. So I highly recommend anybody to grow okra for their first dude, Hinata! Yeah, I highly recommend okra. Oh no, not that. That's not for you. Here. Yeah, okra is super easy. Tomatoes are easy, but you know, it's just depending on the space, because most varieties, if you don't get like a little dwarf cherry tomato or a thing about tomatoes is that you need if you're gonna grow in a small space, you want to get determinate varieties, which means that they only get to about 5 feet, maybe 6 feet the highest if you're really just doing a great job. But indeterminate tomatoes, they can literally grow forever, especially in a subtropical climate. Like obviously if it gets too cold and they probably get snowed on, they're probably not going to survive. But in a subtropical climate, you can have your tomatoes growing in December, which I've done before. And it's pretty incredible what you can get away with in a subtropical climate. It's just that I feel like not a lot of people experiment enough. But I think people in Florida are starting to get that like gardening kick, you know. Community's getting bigger. It's really nice. It's cool. Now, another thing, I know this is a lot of information for an intro, but I just wanted to give you a nice little packet of pearl to go out there and do your own research with. So, what am I going to say? Damn it, I was going to say something awesome. Alright, well, indeterminate tomatoes, they can grow forever. And in a subtropical climate, you know, see, this is the problem when you don't have notes. I just do shit. But hey, you know what? That's probably fine. That's probably all you need for your first intro to gardening. Oh, I remember. Okay, so this is key. This is key. High key, all right? I want to create this mindset that we stop using and developing monocultures, okay? It disgusts me, okay? How many giant corporations use thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of land to grow monocultures of food. And the thing is that, you know, you don't learn this in school, but people do not know how, people do not understand how bad that is for the earth and for the environment. It is, dude, let me just say, okay, I'm gonna move my food out of the way, okay, because this is serious. All right, do not do monocultures to the extent where you are covering giant swath, like just thousands of acres of land, you know. And the thing is that, like, you know, I think a big problem, you know, that a lot of these people have, because you have, look, and this happens in Florida too, you have orange fields, you have corn. I got cut off there. Okay, so we have monocultures. These monocultures, okay, like the orange fields and the soy fields and the wheat fields and the corn fields and your GMO tomato fields, they have all one thing in common. No, they have several things in common, actually. One, they're a monofield. They're mono, which means one, only one variety of plant there, right? There's no ecosystem at all, okay? And two, there's because there isn't an ecosystem, it's just one densely compact area of one specific crop. You can get pest issues. So in order to combat that, you have to either genetically modify these plants, or you have to use pesticides to get rid of the bugs, because these plants can't survive without pesticides or being genetically modified, right? You would think organic would be the way to go, because these are the plants that have the immune system to survive and fight the environment that they grow in. But that isn't logic for people, because we want quantity over quality, and honestly, we could have quantity with quality if everybody knew how to grow. And so, you know, this is a reason why I'm going to share my knowledge here on this platform, because, you know, I feel like gardening, it's not like, it's, I don't know the way people look at it, but I feel that it's important that anybody that walks this planet should understand agriculture to some extent, right? Whether it doesn't always have to be about food, but because the thing about it is that each plant plays a role in an ecosystem and an environment, okay? Monocultures don't allow for an ecosystem to actually happen. And the thing is that what people don't understand is that, how do you actually fertilize a lot of these plants? You know, and you would say, oh, you know, this is what I'm saying. It's like, it doesn't matter what you choose, because everything can be a complement in the ecosystem if you know how to what is it called? Like companion plant, and you know, create diverse ecosystems where everything can kind of thrive, because you understand, you know, how things go. And this is where it comes in. You want to learn a bunch of things about a bunch of specific plants when you're trying to create yourself like a food forest or something eventually, but that's later on. Right now, just grow some okra. But as I was saying, when you create that multicultural environment, it doesn't matter if you just want to learn how to grow flowers. Flowers are extremely important for bringing in pollinators. And what do pollinators do? They pollinate your plants. And the thing is that without pollinators, you would be sitting there at every tomato flower with a toothbrush or whatever, and shaking those plants so that they could become fertilized and actually start to reproduce the fruit. So there are, several parts of a flower, and a lot of these flowers are essentially male and female, where they can be self-fertilized, but some of them need like a bug to land on this flower and then land on this flower to fertilize this flower, right? So you need pollinators for many, many plants. And the thing is that even if the plant has all of its parts within one flower, it still needs something to create the reaction of a bug pollinating it and grabbing pollen from it, because that's what helps it to fertilize itself in a sense. So you want a diverse ecosystem. You want flowers. You want this. You want trees. You don't want just some scorching, beating down sun all the time in a specific area, because that becomes a dry spot. That becomes a spot that you need to water a lot. At least when you're in a subtropical climate like mine and it gets extremely hot, if you see most places that don't have any tree coverage, it's pretty dry looking because it gets so hot. And then it becomes really dense and compacted soil, and dense and compacted soil is not good for roots, baby roots at least. It's very difficult for the roots of plants to thrive when they have to push so hard through the soil to make something happen. So I feel like that was a dense first intro. Okay, one more thing for real. I forgot this. Okay, and now I'll say bye. So another point that I was talking about with having a diverse ecosystem, opposite of a monoculture, which I don't know the correct term, but I off the top of my head, I know the correct term. It's just my brain isn't working. So that's not the point. Point is that a diverse culture of plants, the reason why it's important, okay, and I'm going to explain something to you so you understand what I'm saying. It's not just that you want pollinators to come either. It's that you want there to be an ecosystem, right? So some plants are going to get attacked, right? And you can't always avoid that. But for instance, when you're talking about companion planting, you can plant onions in a tomato bed, or with peppers or something, right? Just as an example. And that will deter a lot of bugs that love tomatoes but hate onions, or those really strong pungent plants, like mint, which you need to be very careful about. And basil, which you don't need to be that careful about. And this is very important when you're coming into gardening, is understanding that you can also combat by growing certain things next to each other. Like if that there's a certain pest that loves this or whatever, maybe just even having, I don't know, a certain flower that a certain pest hates, that could help, like rosemary or thyme, pungent herbs and things like that. That's why like a lot of people have like an herb garden, because like a lot of the pests won't want to go there, simply because the herbs are too strong for it, and it bothers them, right? And they don't like it, just kind of like cedar wood, like ticks and fleas hate cedarwood oil and things like that. So, you know, it's learning about what can work well together, what can keep the, you know, and the thing is that you don't always want, you know, to kill all the bad bugs, because like, let's say you have a bunch of spiders. Those spiders are going to protect your garden. They're going to eat a lot of the harmful bugs, and they're going to actually help in your garden. While sometimes you can get a little bit more spiders than you're hoping for. My point of the matter is that if you get, you know, the ecosystem right, everything kind of takes care of itself, but you have to kind of do a lot of work before that. A lot of work. But once you can get it going, once you get things established, then it gets a lot easier. But yeah, that was it. I didn't want to bring any plants because the thing is that, you know, sometimes you'll be like, how to do this and how to do that. And then it's just like, I just feel like I wanted to create an introduction that would have been extremely helpful for me and kind of all encompassing, so that I would be able to choose my direction and kind of be able to like really process it a little bit better. You know, sometimes when you show somebody seeds and a plant and all this stuff, it's exciting, it's fun, you know, it's show works and all that stuff, but sometimes you need an introduction without all the jazz. So that is my introduction to gardening. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it. And I will see y'all later. This is En Route, and I'm out.